I'm Boston 2%, author of Fire and Ice, the Meth Bible, and I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Boston 2%.
Whoever that person was psycho. So, Vernon, I've spoke about this on other shows. It's got this sadistic, you're around a bunch of killers, like Daddy's Little Girl was one, right? Daddy's Little Girl was like this Ukrainian or Russian type, somebody from Eastern Europe or something. Western Europe, I don't know. But she was like Russian or Ukrainian or something. And she had a shirt on that said, Daddy's Little Girl, pink shirt. This kid comes up to me and he smoked the chief of police in his town. That's what he was there for. But he was like halfway normal. He was one of the only ones. He comes up, he goes, you want to know what she's in here for? And I said, yeah, well, what is it? This is like my first week in the pod, right? And he's like, he goes, well, her toddlers were in the bathtub and God told her to put a piece of plywood over the bathtub, and she stood on that as they were fighting for their life. And she murdered them. And she was let off on an NGRI, and she was not guilty, and she was in the hospital. And then, there was an organ player up there, and he was this black dude, and he was a guy who killed like 10 prostitutes from Louisiana all the way to Texas. And his MO, and this is how they found the body count, is he'd hit them in the head with a bowling pin, and he would shove a dead bird in their mouth, Bill. And that's how they found how many people he killed, is because that's how he would leave them. So you got Daddy's Little Girl, and you've got the Satanist in the organ player, right? He's a Satanist playing the organ in our church chapel. He's like Antoine LaVey in there, dude. I mean, he's creepy. They somehow finagled or paid. I don't know how they did it, but someone allowed them to sneak off. And Daddy's Little Girl and the Satan organ player had a serial killer baby behind the walls of Vernon. I was there. They ended up they ended up moving the guy, and they ended up taking the baby and putting it in state custody. Could you imagine? And that's real. I was there, and I saw it with my own two eyes.
And most likely, those types of people will never be released, right?
No, because, well, there's some like Andrea Yates, who drowned her 5 kids. She could already be out right now, but the story is she's in Austin. She was at Vernon where I was at, but there's so many threats on her life from the public for what she did. They keep her in there for her own safety against the public. And that's what, because she's still in there right now. And there's some people, a lot of people never leave the state hospital system. I had to prove my sanity before I could be released. So I beat the case. I got no criminal record, but now I've got a whole nother mountain. So I'm at Vernon, and I'm like, okay. After about 2 months, I passed the danger review board. They were like, this guy's like not even crazy. So they moved me to San Antonio. You step down, less restrictive hospital, no restraints policies. But when you lift those restraints policies, the violence was off the chain. Like you'd be watching TV, girl would come up and just bash your nose in because she thought she heard voices telling her to do it, like crazy stuff. There's no help for mentally ill people at state hospitals. See, really, they get $1,150 a day per patient. It's a pill mill where they you. It's chow in the morning, breakfast meds, lunch meds, dinner time meds, bedtime meds. And I never once saw a doctor, not one time, walk out onto any of the floors to offer any kind of treatment. There was no groups. There was none of that. There was arts and crafts. They drug you and sit you like a piece of meat in front of a TV, and they make buku dollars. So people don't really leave the state hospital system because it is a massive scam. It's like you get $200 a day for a prisoner in jail. You get $1,000 plus a day for the people in the state hospital, and around and around we go. I mean, that's its own show, right? So I'm in there. I'm totally healed, Bill. And I'm like, I meet this maniacal doctor. It's like she took pleasure out of taking the wind out of my sails. And I remember, and this is all in the book in a chapter called Dark Days Asylum Nights, Bill, and it could be its own fucking movie. It's like a super long chapter, and it's a roller coaster ride like it was in real life, okay? So I'm in there. I based all of the book on real life stories I experienced. So I'm in there, and she sits me down. This is like my first week at San Antonio, and she's like, 30 days, Mr. Turkin. She's like, the average safety evaluation on felony 1 takes 3.5 to 5 years. And I went, what? I'm like, how am I going to live in hell for 3.5 to 5 years? I'm like, this is like the hallowed screams of the mad all night long. One of my roommates was a transgender who sat on the edge of the bed with long stringy hair with like women's clothing on, with his hand in his head, and he all night long. I had to learn. My mother would be on the phone. She'd be crying. Patrick, they're going to kill you in there. And I'm like, Ma, calm down. I'm like, it's just so-and-so. You get used to this craziness, right? I was on 9 medications that I didn't need. All of a sudden, my junk stopped working, Bill, because of the drugs they had me on. I felt like I was on chemotherapy.
Yeah, there's all these side effects that's hitting you, right?
Yeah. Screw them people, man, because they knew I was normal too. They knew it. And I went in there and I marched in. I had this really cool black doctor, though, he was my main doctor at San Antonio. And I marched in there. I'm like, I ain't taking these pills no more. No, he thinks I'm a crazy person. Right? And he's like, well, why should I take you off the pills? And I go, listen, man. I go, I was on for like 2.5 years before this crime happened. I go, I was way out there. I go, when I was in jail, I got healed. I go, I'm completely normal. I don't need this stuff. I go, I'm not taking them anymore. I go, I have ED. I was like, I can't breathe. I gained like 80 pounds like overnight, because that's like the average weight gain because of the pills and the food they give you and everything. Yeah. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Now, if I even raised my voice, it was another 6 months added on for a safety evaluation. Any aggressive behavior, it's called a 46C in the state of Texas. There's B, who's awaiting trial, and if you beat your case, it's C. Very rare. It was like me and one other person. So I'm there, and he listened to me, and he heard me out. See, there's God's hand on my life again, okay? He listens to me, and I told him, and he's like, you were on. He goes, what? He goes, you shouldn't even be here. He goes, this was a big mistake. They called the social worker. I'm freaking out. I'm like, they're going to overturn my case and send me to prison. So I get on the phone with Scorsese. He's like, relax. He's like, they can't do nothing. Double jeopardy, Patrick.
Yeah, they can't charge you same thing twice.
No, but it sent them into a panic because they're like, what happened in the court? Oh, my God. So now I'm like, okay, I start to get this feeling like the tide's turning, right? So I start keeping names and dates and times and journals, right? It was like if Superman and Lex Luthor had a baby. I became this like heroic, maniacal character that I was like, you know what? I'm going to take these bastards on, because a guy would piss his pants and he would sit in the corner because of the client's rights, right? They can't make you take a shower or change. So people would sit in their own crap and feces and piss for like 90 days, stains all over their jeans. They would stink. These are mental patients with the mind of children being abused. Assaults like you have never seen. Now, patient on patient crime is not prosecuted, Bill. So the cops will show up and take a report. But in order for someone to be charged, that victim has to get out, be released, get their human rights as a United States citizen restored again upon release, because you have no rights in there. You're a ward of the state. Then you'd have to go down to the police station and press charges. Most crimes that go on in San Antonio State Hospital and many others all over the country are never prosecuted. Okay, because those people are not well enough to remember the crime when they get out 2, 5, 10 years later. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw a woman almost be beat to death by this man from Corpus Christi. He was a violent criminal. And I watched him walk out the doors after he did this too. He beat her almost to death. He was booting her right directly in the face, blood everywhere. She was in a wheelchair for about a month after that. Now I'm keeping names, dates, and times, right? And I'm keeping journals and everything in detail. One day, everyone's pounding on the windows. This is where it really started getting interesting. This is where like I started to know who I was in the eyes of God and how powerful you are when you have God's hand on your life. I remember I raised my voice and I started screaming. I snapped. Like I would have to go into a happy place just to stay sane with all the insane talk about murder and all these things, child abduction. I mean, from the delusions, right? So I snapped and I raised my voice and I was freaking out. And this lady, this nurse, this is where it all took a turn. The nurse comes up to me. She goes, Durkin, I'm drugging you. And I'm like, I sat down and I'm like, I just screwed up bad. I'm like, this is going to be in my deal. She's like, and if you don't take the pills, she's like, I'm going to shoot you up with them. And she walked up to the nurse's station and I was like, my heart sank.